website for nonprofits. We're going to talk about analytics and SEO and a building tool and also domain name. We'll talk about search engine optimization and what it is and just a real simple way of how to do it. Some organizations will actually hire companies, SEO companies. So search engine optimization, basically, how can you help Google or any other search engine find you? And I'll tell you some things about that. Also analytics, how you can look at your website and see what's happening on the website. And also you can find out what's not happening on the website that you want to. We'll talk a little bit about domain names, just some advice on that. And then I'm going to do a demonstration of a web building tool, very easy one called Weebly. So let's move on. Search engine optimization. In the world of web, this gets a lot of attention and it's evolved a lot over the years. I started with the web in the early days, way back when it was really just a matter of keywords kind of in the code behind everything. It didn't matter even what was on the front of a website, but the public facing part of that. That's not so anymore. And in a way, it's actually become a little bit simpler, I would say, because Google has gotten smarter and smarter over time, and little tricks and things that sometimes SEO experts, I'll say, have used in the past don't really work anymore. So there are some really sound advice, which I'll share with you. But basically, this is making your website as visible as possible for Google. In other words, you want to help Google to find you. So if I were Google, I'd say something like, help me help you. And that is exactly what they do. So something to know about is the term web crawler. So very often search engines will send out their automated programs to go out and they search, I mean, just millions, if not billions of web pages, websites and pages, and scan their content. If you think of it like a great big library, they capture who you are, what you do, and then when we get into SEO a little more, things like, well, how often is this website updated and so forth, and also how relevant and how trustworthy is the information, and there are strategies for that as well. Nothing is overly complicated. It just takes some time, but it's important to understand that it gets scanned often. And if a website is not really done much for years or so, we've all gone to websites, gone to a page, and the last date, like say an entry, maybe for a training or something, was like 5 years ago. Google is not going to look on you favorably if you do that. So, and we'll talk about why that matters. One of the major basics is understanding keywords. And I use an example here of Ogden Youth Services. It could be any number of things. What you want to do is come up with some keywords that you think people may search for, and it will surprise you when you start looking at them, what they do and what they don't use to find such things. And you can look at this screenshot here of a service that shows some different possibilities. If I'm in the business, the nonprofit business of Ogden Youth Services, you can look and see that is in the list right there. Ogden Youth Programs is another one that people are using. Youth Counseling, Ogden, Utah, North Ogden Youth Soccer. I mean, all kinds of different things, and see how high those are ranking. So why does this matter? Because you want to keep a good list of keywords, and as you write your content, make sure that you put these keywords into your content, and know that there is content that is public facing, like I'm going to show an example of some good content, and some content that needs a lot of help, that uses good keywords. This is helping Google to help you, because Google will scan your content. They'll look at your headers. They'll look at what's called metadata, which is information on the back side of the website, which these days is super easy to put in. The website builders like Weebly make it super easy to do that. And ChatGPT or any of the AI can help you write like a basic description, or one's a title and so forth. Google looks at those as well. That's why that's all important. And if you look here on the right side of the page, these are some free keyword tools. They were shared by ChatGPT. And of course, any services shared in this presentation today is not endorsed by United Way of Northern Utah. It's just a matter of demonstration. And so we don't say what's great, but I have tried one of these and they seem to work pretty well. And of course, they'll want to upcharge you and so forth. And it's worth it, if you spend the extra money and get extra help. think this one came, actually ChatGPT created this list on the left. Some of the things that you'll learn about this is if you notice down below, there's it says KD in that list right there, in between keyword volume and CPC, which stands for cost per click. KD, keyword difficulty, is low basically on this, meaning how difficult is it to get to the top of the search. So if someone comes and searches for Ogden Youth Services, you really want to do all you can to get in that first page. Statistics show that mostly people, so what they find on the first page is where they go for the most part. Again, the vast majority of people do that. Sometimes you go to the second page. If you're desperate, you go to the third page. But so this particular one is really low, but you can learn, does that really matter? For nonprofits, I mean, it's typically they're pretty low because we don't, like if it's a shoe store, there's so many doing the very same thing. But how many like dinosaur parks do we have? In Ogden, Utah, that I know, we just have one. And so the keyword difficulty would be really low for that one, as an example. Cost per click, or CPC, on the side there, just FYI, if you use a tool and you see that, basically for you to use like Google Ads, or there's also a PPC you might see as a pay-per-click. And basically it's saying for every time someone clicks on you can set an advertisement with an advertising company that says, and they'll advertise it for you. If somebody clicks on here, you pay 80 cents, you think, wow, that could go up really fast. But it looks like 200 people, if you see the keyword volume kind of on the top left of that little screen there, that's per month. And so 200 people click per month. Doesn't mean they would all click, on your 80-cent ad, which would be, nearly $200 or so, 80% or $200. But you can also set a limit on that says, well, I only want to spend $50 a month, and it will stop doing that when it gets to that point. So anyway, those are the keyword tools. Again, very, very well worth it. When you put them into your website, again, it's really worth it to have AI scan it and ask, well, what do you think I do? And what am I missing here? Who's my audience, and am I connecting with keywords and so forth? So keywords is part of the story. So if we look at search engine optimization, or SEO, there are a few, things to do. Now you have your keywords, you do the top one there with keyword research. The next thing is just build good content, good lean content. We're going to look at some examples in just a minute. Also, good, simple, brief, keyword-rich content. I want to point that out, using all these great keyword terms that you found. And then later, as we talk about analytics, you'll look to see, well, over time, maybe your keywords shift a little bit, and you can use analytics to figure that out. Metadata is just information that is in the code, and you don't have to do any coding at all. There's just a little field. There are two of them that matter the most, really. One is the title. So when you look something up on Google and it comes up and you see the title of that, that's in the metadata, and you set that title. Again, I'd use AI to determine what that might be, and then you write a little description that's just a very short paragraph. Okay, those two things matter a lot: the title and the description. Google looks heavily upon those. There are no expensive or tricky SEO tricks to do that. It's just good keywords and writing those out, paying attention to those, and then having something analyze it for you. So also something really important, notice I put Youth Services Ogden. Really important to use location-based keywords somewhere in your website. Also be real careful with acronyms. I go to one website after another with acronyms, and I don't, sometimes you have to really dig in deep to figure out what they mean. It's very common just to use those. So go ahead and use them, but at least somewhere on your website, put the full name of whatever you're speaking about. Something else is listing your organization in local directories, Google Business Profile, which changes from time to time, the name of it, the service no. List yourself with Google, with Yelp. If you notice here, I used AI to find, what are some other ones that we should, if I'm a nonprofit in Northern Utah, who should I list with? There's a utah.com business directory, Utah Nonprofits Association directory. And by all means, if you can, get in with your chambers, and a lot of the content that they'll share, they'll highlight you with your membership. Typically you have certain benefits like that. And those things are indexed really well by Google. So Utah 211, also a program of United Way. So very well worth it. Down at the very bottom, I just put some related keywords to the one we've been looking at, and we saw some of them on the other. Test them and look to see where they are. If they're being used or they're popular, use them. But do create a good list and do testing on it. So what's good content and what's content that's not effective? Effective versus effective. Also, the term copy. If you heard copy a lot, that's what they refer to content on a website. That typed copy. Content on a website. Notice at the top right here, Ogden Youth Services provides support programs for at-risk teens in Weber County, Utah. So we have our location, we have what they, really what this fictitious organization does, and so forth. And then talk about a few things: crisis intervention, addiction recovery, teen tutoring, helping youth. Now, I chose these words actually from using a keyword tool, more than one actually, and put those in there. Quite often you'll see websites and looking down below, welcome to our site. So what's the very first thing that Google sees when it comes to your website? And the first place it looks is most likely your homepage. It says, welcome to our site. It doesn't tell Google at all what you do. It doesn't tell them where you are. It doesn't give you any, credibility with Google, as in, we know what we're doing with, Ogden Youth Services or Youth Services in Ogden, right? So we do amazing things. These things actually, these are really good. This is not bad information, but you don't want it to be at the top of your page. This is more like you want people to know that you're confident and you love what you do, that you've been around a long time, since 1981. That's really great. And we do great things for teams, right? Or whatever it is that you do, but that's not going to be indexed as well as the one up above. And so to give yourself the best chances to help Google to help you, you want something that looks like the one up above. So and again, run it through AI and let AI write it for you, and then finish it yourself, which is a great strategy. So, all right, we're going to talk about analytics now. And one of the main tools of analytics is Google Analytics. And there are others out there. But why does it really matter? And in the next slide, we'll talk about what is it, what you measure, and we'll look at a screen that shows you like a dashboard of a fictitious analytics, rather. Well, one is to understand your audience. It's really important to know who comes to your website, and there are a lot of reasons for that. One of the most important ones is is your marketing working? I've been webmaster of a few different sites for different employers where I've worked. And you really have to watch and be careful. You never know what's going to get picked up. And you might, if you're Ogden Youth Services and you can only serve locals, and you start getting attention from people in West Virginia or, somewhere or out of the country, probably not, something needs to be adjusted. Something is not there that should be, or there that probably is not working for you. But knowing who is showing up, I mean, you really want to know, who are my customers in the first place, which is another kind of a marketing research conversation. Most likely this would be parents, right? And so, where are they coming from and so forth. Measuring campaigns. Also, if you track considering marketing promotion, if you track your numbers and analytics, and then you get a big spike because you just did a marketing campaign, that's a good thing. Again, you need to see where it's coming from, what they do on your site, and so forth. So the third one would be like a whole class in and of itself, and that's conversions. Basically, that would just mean when somebody shows up in my site, do we convert them, to where we want them to be? If I'm Ogden Youth Services, I want them to reach out to us, to send us a message. But another client or audience, stakeholder rather, of a nonprofit are your donors, right? And so that would be another part of your website. We had 300 people visit our donate on a website, and where we have a button that says donate and so forth on a particular page. Maybe it's just a landing page for a temporary time. And of those, how many actually converted into donating money to us, funds to us, support to us? And so that's something really important. That's how analytics works in one of its best ways. You can do it on your own. You can also use a client relationship management tool. Refining content is also helpful as well. And then really just your resources. You want to put your resources into what works and not spend time and waste time on what doesn't. So those are just some different things. Now, if we go to a dashboard, we have all these different measurements on the right there. And again, long conversation, this could be its own class. You want to know where traffic is coming from, as I mentioned. You also want to know what they're doing on your website. One of the ways that is measured with what's called a bounce rate. And a bounce rate, you get a bounce when two things happen, one of two things. One, somebody comes to a page and leaves from that page without going anywhere else. Or two, they come and they stay a very short time. And it depends on the analytics tool what that might be. It might be less than a minute, it might be less than 2 or 3. The bounce rate is fickle though, because what happens if United Way Northern Utah has it sign up for our trainings page? Somebody comes to the page and then they leave from the page. Well, we would assume that they signed up for a training. We could look at our numbers and see how many did and so forth. So that would not be a bad thing. But in general, when you hear something about bounce rate, it's usually, well, you want to keep it really low. You want people to come and spend a lot of time, but if they come, find what they need and leave, that's a good thing. Just something about that. What are your most popular pages? Again, to conversion, where do people come in, and then where do they leave? Because that tells you some different things. So this dashboard here will give you some ideas. Look at the bottom there, the wheel there. What are our top pages? What are people finding? In other words, they're searching for, and our SEO is working on these pages. What is that? It's helpful to know how many people are visiting, and again, to compare it with, like if I'm running a marketing campaign or have, our gala is coming up or some event like that. We'd hope we get a big influx of traffic and on the page that allows people to buy a ticket to the gala or see what it is and so forth. One thing I'll mention is that I mentioned Google Analytics. That's a service you can use with any, like when you go to build a website, that service is going to have everything for you. It will store the website, it will store your images, it will have a tool for you to build it. It will also have its own analytic software that you can use, typically as part of your $15 a month or whatever it may be to do that. But you can add in, Google Analytics to something else. So just keep that in mind. And there is a free version of that too. So I've used. So we'll talk a little bit about domain names right now. Just kind of briefly, you can see on the right side there, if you are Ogden Youth Services, OgdenYouthServices.org would be amazing to get. Or, an acronym, OYS, OgdenYouthServices.org if Ogden Youth Services is taken. But you want to get your name. It's helpful for your website. People remember it. And then if they remember, well, how do I get hold of these guys? Oh yeah, OgdenYouthServices.org. It's also good for your emails and so forth. But as you pick a name, and once you do, you can register it with these domain name registrants on the side here. What you're really doing is you're renting it or leasing it. You don't really own it, but you can buy it, like when I say buy the rights to it, for a certain amount of time. So Ogden Youth Services, I could say, well, I want it for 1 year, or it's less per year if I say I want it for 3 years or for 5 or even 10. And I think 10 is the maximum that the World Wide Web Consortium allows you to do. So that's how it works. Avoid hyphens if at all possible, make it memorable, as short and easy as possible. So people, again, so they can really remember it and it really brands you and related to what you do. We'recool.com. That's kind of fun, but they're not going to know where you are, what you do. The services like Weebly, which we're going to look at, you can register through them as well. I didn't put them on here because they do more than just domain names. But here's a list of different those that have a free option that ChatGPT created for us, which is great. And I've probably used all of these except Squarespace. Google Sites is the very simplest one, the website, but it has the least amount of design capability as well. My personal favorite is WordPress. I really like WordPress. Weebly is pretty great too, though. I haven't used them for a while until this class, and they really made some nice changes. So as you can see, it's not really cost prohibitive if you do get a subscription, and subscriptions will often include a domain name and some other services, more storage and so forth, and possibly some extended analytics, and so you can look and see, what might work. But truth is, in my opinion, they're all good. So you can't go wrong with any one of these. When it comes to building a website, really, it's just kind of like playing with blocks. And as you can see, this little example that I built here, everything is kind of symmetrical and it's square. In websites, everything is square. Even if something looks rounded, like in an image, basically what they've done is they put a transparent image on it, like a PNG or a GIF file or something like that, and make it look like there's dead space behind it, but really it's there. Everything is there and it's square. Even if you look at the image box below the box that says text, and it looks like, there's free floating space on either side. No, that's also a spacer element that's sitting there that allows you to do that. But it's all about playing with blocks. And who doesn't love to do that, right? If we take this image here and we were to add some, some content to it, it would look something kind of like that. You can see I've stretched the photos a little bit so they would look better on your website. But this is something, this is kind of how it might convert, using that different format. And you can do something different. You can do it the same on all the pages of your website, or you can do, different configurations. You just need to learn how the website tool works, and then how to use that with, with this. So again, going back here, this is what it looked like before. We have a header, we have a footer, we have a text box, and then we have image placeholders. This could also just as easily be placed to have a contact us. It could be a newsletter sign up, a PDF download, a YouTube video, and many, audio or whatever, or a banner that's scrolling in full motion, like a train going by or something like that. These are just the very most basic elements. But all websites will have a header and a footer element, no matter what. That's how they're organized, so it knows when to begin and when to end. So, and then again, we would look something like this. So now we're going to go to this demonstration of Weebly. This is the Weebly interface. There's a little more to do when you sign up, just weebly.com. And I think they'll all look somewhat similar no matter where you go. But this one here, I've already signed up, entered my name and got to sign in and everything. And I've got to this point here. For this particular tool, this one is asking you, do I need a website, or I need a website with an online store? An e-commerce website just has a lot more spaces, like it lays out spaces for products. And also it will let you connect to a point of sale system, POS system. And there's lots of them out there, which would just say, when somebody buys something, the system, pays the appropriate tax and then gives me the rest of the money minus the fee for the credit card and the fee maybe that Weebly or someone else might take. And they tell you what all that is. So we're just going to go do a basic website here. And you can see here there are categories. And because this is the free version, there's only a few. If you pay the $12 or $15 a month, there are many more, like at least triple, maybe quadruple. So there are some good layouts here. For this demonstration, though, we want to find something that's really simple, just has a really simple navigation system. That one's pretty good. We'll try this one first. And it asks me, do I want to select a domain name? If I already have one somewhere else, I can connect it here. And note that with domain names, you can have more than one. You can have a domain name that will refer to any page on your site or just the whole site itself. If we had, if we wanted to get a domain name that said, United Way Gala 2025, we could, if it were available, and pay for it and use that on our ads and everything, and then just point it wherever we want, whatever website we want. This is the basic interface here for this tool. And you notice the website has 4 pages: home, my work, about, and contact. Now I can surf through these by actually clicking onto the workspace. It says my work. And I go to the site, and this is all in design mode, of course. And then I can also click on the pages and look to see, well, how many do I have? With this little plus sign up here, I can add a new one if I want and decide where to put it and then how to connect it. And I can build links, on any page to any other page, however I may wish to do that. Very simple. So we're going to go back to the home page here, and let's look and see what the blocks look like. We have only so much because we don't have full control, especially of a basic builder like this. We want to take the complications out so that it's really simple for someone to build, not get lost, in like compared to a real professional type program. But you can see right here, as I hover over this, you can see it's a big rectangle right there. It says spacer. We can grab a spacer element. I'm going to go back here where we can see the tools, back to the build element here. And down in here on the left here where it says structure, there's a section which is basically a big block you put down and then you put other blocks kind of inside of it. Okay, there's a divider that divides sections on your, it turns into different pages, so forth, within the same page. And then there's a spacer, and the spacer is what we see right here. Now the spacer lets us basically do that. You can adjust the spacer, the size of it, just like that. And to move things around, you'll learn to use spacers for horizontal and for vertical, design. How do we put two images, side by side in the middle of the page and make them look the same size and make it really symmetrical? Well, you do that with a spacer in between them. This one is just up above, but that's what that's doing right there. Now it's easy enough. If I decided, this is a funny tool, I have to click off of it and then come back onto it without clicking it to see some of the options I can do. One is to get rid of it by clicking that little X right there. It's a little funny here, grabbing it, but and the other one up here, they disappear sometimes. There we go. That one right there allows me to box at the top right here. That allows me to move this element to any of the other pages on the site, any of the other 3 pages, okay? And this one obviously is a text box. Also at the top, I click off it, go back. I can delete this element if I wanted to as well. But if we click inside here, we see something really familiar, and that is some tools up here, bold, underline. We can make I can highlight it, I can make it bigger if I want it, or smaller. Control all, capture all of it. Or as big as it will let me go. I can change the color of it if I want. See what that looks like there. Obviously, that's not a good color choice, but if you have a light background, you want a dark, a dark font or so forth. I can also create a link if I want, and I can make it go to another page, or I can have it dial a phone number, send an email, I can have it download a file, or I can have it go to another website somewhere, wherever they may be, and so forth. So that's that. Well, how do I size things a little bit? To me, it feels like this is like you've got a big scroll of doom. That's a great term you want to remember, the scroll of doom. You don't want to make people scroll too long. So I'm going to take the element that's behind those other things, the spacer and the text, and I'm going to make it much smaller, much shorter. This is why designers like really big screens and lots of them. So now I've made it much more compact. When somebody comes here, wow, they're going to get around a lot faster than they would have normally. I can also edit the background here if I want. That blue design almost kind of looks like a smoke or something. It's kind of cool. I can edit that. Simple enough. I can replace it with something else. I can do a scrolling effect on something. And that is where it goes. So you've been to a website where it goes through different photos, slides, which is kind of cool. I can do that. So that's for an image. So, and I'll also replace the header layout if I want. I'm not going to, but that's where the header is up top, and how those things, change. So if we look right here, I'm going to try and shrink this just a little bit. If we look right here, now we've come down to another element down below that is holding all this stuff, and this one we can do the same with. So now we've got 3. I'll show you where they are here. Okay. We go back to the structure tools on the side here. This is called a section, what they call a section. So we have 2 of them. We have one up here that holds all this content, and then another one right here, and then another one here, and another one at the bottom. So it looks like there's 5 total sections. But I could eliminate one if I wanted. But notice right here we have an image. Right here we can edit it, we can replace it, we can put a link to it, we can make it align to the left or the right. And it's not moving because it's kind of held in place by different spacing. We can set margins on this, and sometimes you can't get something to line up just right. Using spacing like this, margins, is a way to fine tune it. Okay, we can do a caption for it, and to the bottom, what was the last one? Advanced. Oh, put a border if we want on that. So we won't do that. So then over here, we see a couple of text boxes, one here, one here. Notice how when I hover over them, a box appears. means I can do something with them. And then down below here is a button. And again, notice how the button is aligned to the left, but see this, there's empty space all the way to the right. Everything has to be symmetrical. So if they're only a small, a small little box that wasn't wide enough for this, another would have to go in there. Otherwise it'd look funny on the website. It wouldn't stay in place. But we can move things around. Maybe we're like, hey, we're going to put our call to action a little higher. So I move it up here, and I see the blue line up here where it's going to go, and I let go. Ah, now it is. It's higher. That's kind of cool. We can move it up a little higher too. We make that smaller, or we could actually, move this. Maybe she's really artistic, and we'll move that down below the button even, or lettuce. And that is one thing you'll learn. Tools have different strengths and weaknesses, and some, it will change things. So to keep these things separate from each other, you'll notice here that there is a spacer right here. It doesn't matter if it's tall or not. If it's there, it's going to hold it all the way down to the bottom right there. So that's how that works. Okay. So let's say we want to, we're going to get rid of that thing right there. And that. We want to put something else inside here. I'll do that just for fun. Okay. Now we're inside another container. We think to ourselves, well, how about a YouTube video right here? I give it just a minute. So there is no video in there. That's why it's saying that. Now we could go to YouTube. And because you guys all like jazz music so much, we're going to grab that page. And we can also do spacing elements here if we want. Maybe a top margin a little higher, bottom a little lower, just see how it looks. And of course, when you test your sites, you want to test them on a computer. You also want to test them on a tablet and a phone, especially a phone these days. And there you go. There's the website. This particular tool doesn't really allow you to do a lot with the sizing, with this. All we can really do is set the margins right here and so forth. So different tools give you different affordances. Like in WordPress, we could size that a little bit better, but this is going to go across the full screen right here. So you could also put in a PDF document somewhere if we wanted. We say, we want you to download a PDF document. So let's put that right inside here. Click here to upload a PDF document. So we could hot link that and upload the file right here and then stick it in there. And we can grab something, see what we've got here. Branding message toolkit. And there's a PDF. So somebody could look at it right here. They could scroll through it. They could download it as well. So that is that. So eventually you're going to get to the point where you have it where you want it and you want to see it live. And so you want to, in the top right here, you'll just click publish. And once it's published, you can look at it live. They even have ways to look at these. I mean, back in some time ago, they would have you go to like a review mode. What are things going to look like? What should this look like on the web? This tool, Weebly, has it built in. What you're looking at is really what it should be looking like on the web itself. Let me shrink that a little bit, get that a little closer. But this one, you don't have to do that. It's just right here. So, but still publish and then look and see what it looks like on the web, and I won't publish this one. I think that's about the size of it. When I learn new tools, I usually go and spend 5 or 7 minutes on YouTube finding a tutorial or a couple, and they'll get you up to speed really fast. And often the people that make those will do a basic and advanced. And so thank you guys for coming, and hope you have a super great day.